Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So my name's Jingwen, but you can call me Jess, and I'm Taiwanese but living in Thailand, so I applied to my universities as an international student and I will be attending Brown this fall. I got a few requests to do this video on sort of advice for international students applying to US universities, so let's get started. In the description box below, I will describe the actual process of applying to university, but the rest of this video will be focused on advice. For us international students, the cost is roughly the same. Like for example, UCLA with room and board costs around $65,000 a year for international students, whereas it only costs $35,000 for California residents. But for example, a private university like Northeastern, for example, it costs around $69,000. So as you can see, there's very little difference in cost, so it comes down to whether or not you want to study at a public or private university. Do you prefer a bigger school with bigger classes or a smaller school with smaller classes? It comes down to that. So cost-wise, you don't really get any advantage in applying to a public university, which is totally different for American students. So for international students, most universities are not need blind. I believe the only universities who are need blind are Harvard, Yale, Princeton, MIT, and Amherst College. So I would suggest you do your research to see whether or not your university is need blind for financial aid for international students, but it could significantly lower your chances of getting in if you apply for financial aid as an international student. About a year ago, I saw a video of this guy who applied to 21 universities. He got rejected from 19 of them, and he thinks it's because he applied for financial aid. Yeah, make of that what you will. It's very likely that applying to financial aid will harm your chances of getting in, so I would not recommend that. However, applying for merit scholarships is a totally different situation, so it's a great opportunity to ease financial stress without hurting your chances of getting in. A lot of schools actually don't even require an additional essay to apply for scholarships. Sometimes they just pick like the top pool of students and they automatically award scholarships. So for example, I applied to Northeastern University and they offered the top 10 to 15% of applicants anything between $10,000 to $28,000 annually, and I received $25,000, so it was basically an honor scholarship. And same thing with Santa Clara University. I didn't even have to write any additional essays, and they awarded me $30,000 annually. Same thing with the University of Rochester. So I basically had to answer a few additional questions for this, but I received the IB scholarship. And this varies, but I received $20,000 annually. And Rochester also offers a research and innovation grant, also known as RIG, and I received $3,500 for that. So again, like, you have to do your research for your schools, but if you're someone who is really into research and you want to embark on projects like this, look for the universities that provide research grants. Look for the universities that provide merit scholarships. There are a lot of schools out there that do provide these scholarships, and it could greatly ease your financial stress. Get it done early. As international students, we have less like testing slots. Like there's less opportunities for us to take it, and most of the time it's going to get filled up really quickly. Like I had to make sure to sign up for all of my SAT and ACT exams like super early to make sure the spots weren't taken, so just plan ahead. And another thing is deciding between the SAT and ACT. That's something you need to figure out for yourself, because the ACT for international students is computerized, so if you, I don't know, get a headache from staring at a screen for 4 hours, maybe reconsider. But I would highly suggest you at least try and experiment with both to see which one is more your style. One advantage, however, of the ACT is that it's not affiliated with College Board, so technically you can take exams like a subject test and an ACT exam in the same month. Basically, if you wanted to take the test in October, you would not be able to take the subject test in October. You'd have to wait until November or the next subject test date. Now with the ACT, you could technically take the ACT on the 11th or 12th of October and take the subject test in October as well. You basically get more opportunities, if that makes sense. Some schools don't require the SAT or ACT, but I would still take it because it's an easy way for admissions officers to compare students from all over the world, because we're all taking the same exam. As international students, they might not know how our grading systems work at every school, and with the SAT or ACT, it's easy for them to compare students. Oh, I forgot to say this, but a tip for your subject tests, if you're cramming, I would highly suggest the Princeton review for, at least for biology. I think it's really good. A lot of people like to use barons to practice, and they're also really great and they go into a lot of depth, but if you're cramming, you honestly don't have the time to go through something in so much detail. I guess it depends on when you start preparing. If you start preparing early, I would suggest barons. If you don't have time, you only have a month left until the exam, I would use the Princeton review. Oh, you'll also need to take the TOEFL or the IELTS. Now, some universities don't require this. They say if you go to an English school or in some kind of English speaking environment, that's fine, but not every school accepts that. So I would suggest you either do your research or just take it just in case. It's not that long of an exam and it saves a lot of hassle by just having this qualification. I highly suggest you start planning out your Common App essay this summer or as soon as possible, because the prompts don't really change much from year to year, and there's actually, I think, the 7th prompt that allows you to just write about whatever you want. So just start brainstorming ideas, stuff that's essential to you. Again, you're showing these admissions officers who you are, what you can bring to the school. Anything special, like just jot down ideas and brainstorm, because you'll get really busy once senior year starts and you won't really have time to focus on essays. It gets very, very hectic. So I would suggest you start planning ahead, and you can also start looking at the supplemental questions from each university. So alongside with the Common App, each individual university's essay prompts, and sometimes they change from year to year, but there are some really general questions you can just start plotting your answer to. For example, stuff like, why are you interested in this major? And some universities ask really similar questions, like really similar. I'm not saying you can copy and paste. I just meant that you could share ideas, you know? Brian, please don't rescind my offer. For IB students, you can also write about your extended essay and any research that you did. And if it's really good, you could submit it as supplemental material. Depending on your school, at least for mine, we didn't have very typical clubs or societies that American schools might have, but that actually became an advantage for me. I'll link below the video to my stats and extracurriculars, but it gave me the opportunity. That's just one way to show universities that you have leadership skills. You can show initiative. Now, I'm not saying to do things just to pad your CV, but it is your opportunity to be able to pursue something you're genuinely passionate in. So for example, if you're passionate in science, I would highly suggest you start something related to science. And it's great if your application revolves around that. It shows that you have this interest and it's sort of like your spike, your specialty, if you will. Try not to focus on joining like 10,000 clubs and just being a member. Focus on getting higher level positions. Now, if you're truly passionate about something and you've been with the club for a while, it's likely that you'll work your way up to a board position anyways. Narrow down your interests and build your profile around a theme. So for me, my extracurriculars were focused on science. So there's Scientia, science magazine, activism and LGBTQ+ rights. So I did Prism and MUN, and theater and performance. So I wrote a screenplay and I did dance. I wanted my application to revolve around science and theater, which are two things that I am interested in studying in university. Again, this is just my opinion. I'm sure a lot of things work for different people, but it's better to have a general cohesive theme in your application so it doesn't seem too much like you just joined clubs for the sake of joining them, or at least if you do, try and elaborate on them in your essays. So my school only allowed us to apply to 10 US universities, so that didn't really give us as many options to apply to safety schools and reach schools. So what one of my friends did was she also applied to the UK. So if you're considering applying to the US and the UK, you can try this out if you want, but basically she applied pretty early with her UK applications and she heard back from like King's College London pretty early. So once she did receive her conditional offers, she was pretty much set, because all you have to do is actually meet the conditions that they tell you to meet in the final IB exam. It's not happening this year, but basically that's all she had to do. So she pretty much already had her like safety school set and she could apply to 10 more US universities. You feel like you're running out of space to apply to schools, that's something you can explore. Finally, understand that it's very, very competitive for us international students There are a lot of factors at play. There's legacy, there's so many things, and just don't beat yourself up over not getting into your dream school. It's a really stressful time, and if you have the work ethic and you try hard, then just know that you'll be successful no matter where you go. It's more important to keep up your efforts and, again, your work ethic rather than getting into some name brand university, because ultimately university is just a stepping stone to the real world. And just don't stress, because I know I was very stressed when I was going through this process a while ago. But yeah, so see you next time.